This is the Aston Martin Heritage Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another Aston Martin Heritage Podcast. Thank you for joining us. I'm Gary Taylor, and sitting next to me is Steve Waddingham, the AML historian and AMHT trustee. Now, for this one, we had a working title at the time of recording called The Sight and Sounds of Vantage. Of course, Vantage this year, Steve, is 75 years, is it?
Yeah, 75 years this year, Gary.
75 years. And it's funny how these podcasts come about. Now, they are always very well planned, rehearsed, produced, not just thrown together, although it may sound like it sometimes. But for this one, it started with a V600. And then an opportunity came together for what was it, Steve? The V8 Vantage, a Newport Pagnell one?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it started off with an opportunity to drive a V600 that is for sale, or was for sale, with Chiltern Aston.
That's right.
And I was with my old friend and colleague, Les Goble, and we had this opportunity to drive the car. And so we did that as a bit of a one-off. And then I realised that a week later I was due to do another job with a 78 Vantage, a V8 Vantage. So there was an opportunity at the end of that particular job that we were on to get the owner to do a podcast with that. And then I started thinking, well, hang on a minute, he's also got a DB6 Vantage, and there was another event happening a week later where that car would be at. So I just suddenly had this idea, well, let's keep going. Let's try and find some other Vantages, and then see if we can get an episode of the podcast out of it. So, yeah, one thing led to another, basically.
What Vantages do we have here? Because we're doing it in a timeline order, but we are starting with DB6 at the moment, DB6 Vantage.
Yes,
and then following on, we've got the AM Vantage.
AM Vantage, which is a car that a lot of people may not be familiar with, and we talk about that in the podcast and describe what it is. So it's a car we only made 70 of. They were only made between 72 and 73. So a bit of an oddball car, a great looking car. I mean, this particular car I know really well. Phil, who owns the car, is a friend of mine, and it's just such a lovely looking car. Really has got a great look to it.
They're very understated looking, aren't they?
Yeah, and it sounds amazing because it's effectively a 6-cylinder Vantage engine clothed in what looks like a V8 body, but with wire wheels, and it's painted in Cumberland grey. But we talk all about that in the podcast. But in terms of chronological order that you'll hear these in, we start with a DB6 Vantage.
Yes.
And of course that came at the end of DB4, DB5, DB6, the sort of trilogy, if you like, of the 4, 5, 6. But Vantage itself goes back to DB2. So it first appeared in 1950 as an engine upgrade, effectively, and that's all it was, just an engine upgrade. No changes to brakes, or certainly no badging or anything cosmetic about the DB2 Vantage. And really that's kind of got the ball rolling with the name, becoming almost a household name in terms of Aston Martin. Was
the DB2 known as a DB2 Vantage?
I think, to be fair, it was a DB2 with a Vantage.
With a Vantage engine. Yes.
And DB4 Vantage was a car that did actually look different from the standard model. Had the covered headlamps, a bit like a DB5. So most people tend to call those a DB4 Vantage. And DB5, you got the name Vantage on the side strake.
Right.
Same with DB6. But so yeah, I think again most people would call them a DB5 or DB6 Vantage.
Right. Okay. So following on from AM Vantage, we go to a Newport Pagnell V8 Vantage, don't we?
Yes, after the AM Vantage, that's right. Yeah, Newport Pagnell.
I say you, because you've had the experience of going in all these cars, haven't you?
I know, it's just weird how this has all come about over a period of a few weeks.
I could tell your enthusiasm in the podcast, in the recording.
Great fun.
It's great fun.
Yeah, great fun. It's always lovely to either drive or ride in one of these cars, and particularly with people that I know.
Yeah.
And every person you hear in the podcast is a friend of mine. So I'm very lucky, really. I've got so many friends with so many nice cars.
And from the V8 Vantage, you go to the V600 from Chiltern Aston.
Which actually is almost in reverse order to how we recorded these sessions. But yeah, and that's with Les, my former colleague, and who's now retired, who was head of performance driving at Aston Martin for many years. And it was just great to be back in the car with Les again. Of course, you may remember him from previous episodes of the podcast when we were doing Vanquish. And also, if you go on YouTube, you'll find a Vanquish driving film that we made with Les as well. But a legendary figure at AML and a real guru when it comes to driving our cars.
We finish off with a Gaydon V12 Vantage S, don't we?
That's right, yeah. Again, back to Phil. The gentleman has got the AM Vantage. He's also got this very lovely V12 Vantage S, which makes the most amazing noise when you start it up.
Noise, yeah.
So I hope everybody will enjoy listening to that part of the podcast.
Well, we have tried throughout the podcast, before we introduce each of these cars with the owners and Steve in the passenger seat, the engine sound. So hopefully that's going to come across. Steve, we're going to cover DB2 later on in another podcast, the DB2 Vantage. We're going to cover the Vantage history, if you like. So, Dear listener, we're not being negligent. We are going to go revisit that. But this podcast came together by accident, so we're going to take it. And Steve had a great time in the passenger seat. So let's press play, and I hope you enjoy it. And let's not forget, thanks to Chilton Aston, Phil and Jeff.
Yeah, let's say happy birthday to the Vantage. 75 years this year.
Perfect. All right, Steve, let's go. Ready? Yeah.
Well, there we go. That sounds good, Jeff, doesn't it? So, ladies and gentlemen, we're sat in a DB6 Vantage today. I'm sat here with Jeff, and what a lovely car, Jeff. How long have you had this for?
I've had this since 2002.
Okay. And was it your first Aston, or?
Yeah, it was the first Aston, and the story is I bought it at the Newport Pagnell auction. Bonhams used to do the auction at the factory. I'd been looking for a DB6 for some time, so took myself up to the auction, and there was a lot of cars for sale there, but there was this DB6 that was about the right kind of price. So had a look over it while I was looking through the history. David Eels from Maselli was giving the car a look over, and he kind of gave it a clean bill of health and said, it looks like a nice car. This is the kind of money you ought to be buying it for. So I put my hand up several times, and in the end they knocked it down, and I was the lucky bidder, and I've had it ever since.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah, it's a lovely car, isn't it? And you kind of bought it at the right time, I guess, back then.
That's right, yeah. I mean, as I say, I've been looking for a long time, and it was like the kind of the car I had on my bedroom wall when I was a kid with the DB5, obviously. DB5s were always a bit more expensive. At the time, actually, DB5 was, I think there was one at the same auction for about £50,000. And this was, this knocked down for 31,000, I think it was, plus the buyer's premium, so about 32 and a bit or something. And that was about the same price as a kind of a nice executive car at the time. So you buy a BMW, nice BMW, for about the same kind of money. But I didn't want a BMW, I wanted an Aston Martin. Well,
it's funny, isn't it? Because 30,000 quid nowadays will buy you a top spec Mini or a Fiat 500, really. It's quite funny how things have changed. But as you say, there's a big difference value-wise between even then a 5 and a 6. But it's funny, isn't it? Because back in the 60s, this was the car everybody had been waiting for. This was a car that Aston was under pressure to develop, because owner feedback at the time from DB4 drivers was that they wanted more space, higher speed stability, more of a kind of touring car, really. And also things like electric windows, and, eventually these got power steering, and automatic gearboxes became an option as well. Things that weren't available so much on the early DB4s. And what people don't realise is that DB5 was originally a Series 6 DB4. There'd been 5 series of DB4s, and really the what became the DB5 was just really the next update of DB4. Mm-hmm. But because they uprated the engine from 3.7 to 4 litre, somebody at the last minute went, you know what, let's call it DB5. And then it's really down to the Bond film that it's become such a big deal. Whereas the car that replaced it, everybody was dropping their DB5s to come in and buy the DB6. And I think they did a great job. When you look at other cars that have got more space in them, things like E-Type 2+2, I'm not going to say anything unkind about an E-Type, but I would suggest that the earlier E-Type is possibly a bit prettier looking.
I think so. Yeah.
Whereas with DB6, they didn't just got to make the back longer. They really have evolved the styling very cleverly. They made the doors slightly longer.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of lost the extra length in the design of the car, didn't they? Really, and it's got that lovely cam tail at the back, hasn't it?
Yeah, and the cam tail was to reduce lift at the back, and it had been evolved from the racing program, so it worked, and it's been very very subtly blended into the design. So when you look at the car from the front, it really looks like a DB5, but from the back it's quite distinctively different. And as you say, you've got the extra room in the back for passengers. You've done some trips to Le Mans in here with some friends, so 4 of us in the car and all our luggage, and it was quite comfortable. The only snag we had was when we got to the ferry port, we had to get all our stuff out and all the people out to get on the ferry, because we were catching the exhaust pipe as we went over one of the kind of the floor plates, I suppose you call it.
Certainly fully loaded, these do sort of sit quite low at the back, don't they, with a lot of weight in them? Yeah,
and I think actually at that time probably the suspension was getting a bit saggy. Subsequently ended up having it rebuilt, and it was getting a bit low. I used to quite often catch the exhaust pipe on speed bumps, so it's had a suspension rebuild since then, and it sits a little bit higher now.
And talking of suspension, there's a switch on the dash which is the old selector ride switch, isn't it? Is that something that still works, or?
No, it was working in the early years that I had the car. There's 5 settings on it, and it stiffens up the shock absorber at the back. And weirdly, I could never tell the difference in the different settings. So when I had the suspension work done, they suggested that we just disable that. It saves a bit of fiddling around with the wiring and what have you. And I think also, they drift out of adjustment, so they just set in the middle setting now.
Yeah.
But they could be reinstated if someone was really keen to.
Quite a forward-thinking idea, but it was just one of those things that in practice didn't really catch on, did it, for much more than a decade or so. But the dashboard, I mean, these are lovely dashboards, aren't they? Very, very similar to the DB5. Should we start it up and move the...
Yep.
We're sat at we're actually blocking a portion at the moment, which is quite nice. So we better let him out. But yeah, the dashboard, as typical with an Aston dashboard, really, it's packed full of dials and switches. It's finished in a lovely smoky kind of grey colour that's known as black pearl, metallic, and it's got lovely chrome ringed gauges and lots of switches and a sliding control that does the heater and the fast running for the choke, although that's probably disconnected being a Vantage. But yeah, it's quite a busy looking, exciting looking dashboard, that, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's a lovely looking thing. You've got all the beveled chrome dials, and it's very elegant, black and white and silver. It's a nice looking thing. And yes, the choke is disconnected because the Vantage cars have Weber carburetors. They don't really. They do have a choke, but no one ever uses them. And the advice is that to start the car, you press the accelerator 3 times. That primes the accelerator pumps in the carburetors, and it then starts pretty well.
And then in terms of other creature comforts, it's obviously got heater, it's got 5-speed gearbox, which that's quite a novel feature for the 60s, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, and electric windows as well, which were a real rarity back in those days.
Yeah, electric windows. And also on a DB6, these lovely quarter lights with this rotating control here to open them up, and in the days when people used to open up the quarter lights, wasn't it?
Yep,
nice bit
that's
of
right.
Through,
and in fact, the ventilation's not that great. You've got, there's no face level ventilation. The ventilation actually comes in down in the footwell. And the car does get quite warm. The heat from the engine travels through into the cabin, so the quarter lights are actually really useful, especially if it's raining or something and you can't have the windows open.
Yeah, keeps the air flowing through. And we should really talk about DB and Vantage. Probably a lot of people associate Vantage with the V8 models and the later cars, but the name Vantage first appeared on DB2. So DB2 1950, it was an engine upgrade, and it was an engine upgrade available on the DB4. But actually on DB4, the car looked different as a Vantage. Most of them have got the covered Perspex headlamps like the DB4 GT first had, and then what became DB5. So it kind of brought it in as a sort of slightly different looking car, didn't it, really, Vantage? But it's been around a long time, isn't it? The name Vantage, 1950, 75 years this year since we first used that name. And certainly by DB6, it was a well-established, it meant something in Aston Martin language. And you've got obviously the other Vantage as well, haven't you? You've got a V8 Vantage that we were looking at earlier.
I have, yeah.
And the difference between the two cars?
Well, there's 10 years difference. So this is a 68 car, and the Vantage, so the V8 Vantage is 78. And there is a kind of noticeable difference in the modernity of the car. The V8 handles better, the suspension's kind of more developed, it rides over the bumps better, you've got power steering, and it's probably a more solid car. You do notice when you shut the door on the V8 that the doors shut with a really gorgeous thunk, whereas on the DB6 they're a much lighter door, and they kind of, they don't shut with quite the same aplomb as the doors on the V8.
More sort of metallic sort of sounding noise, really, isn't it, on a DB6?
Yeah, a bit more metallic, and they're quite a light door because you've just got a fairly lightweight steel frame with an aluminium skin over the top, so they're quite light. So whereas the V8 doors feel a lot heavier by comparison.
Yeah. Another thing as well I'm sort of thinking about is a question we often get asked about the twin fuel fillers. So on this car, is it a single tank?
It is a single tank, yeah. And I think it's just got baffles to stop the petrol sloshing around. But it's really lovely, especially if you are abroad, that you can. In fact, even here, you can pull into a petrol station. If someone's on one side, you can go the other side.
Fill it up from either side.
Fill it up from either side, which is great. And the V8's the same.
Yes,
The
yeah.
Vantage is the same.
I think the only difference on these is if they've got air conditioning, they tend to have twin tanks. And you've got the air conditioning units
sits in the
middle. Yeah. And of course on a convertible they're twin tanks again, because that's where the roof would drop into where the fuel tank normally is. But if you see an Aston with twin fillers, usually it's a single tank that you can fill it from either side.
Yeah, that's to my knowledge. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And is there a fuel reserve switch on this?
There is a fuel reserve switch actually, and it's a funny affair. There's just a little switch on the dash with an R on it, and you flick that down, the little red light comes on the dash to tell you you're on the fuel reserve. And how it works is that the pickup actually has two positions. So and there's a little ball valve, so when you flick the switch you hear a little click, and that's the ball valve in the pickup pipe changing, and it just moves it to a lower position in the tank. So when you think you've run out of petrol in the normal position, actually there is still petrol in there, it's just that the pickup can't reach it.
Yeah.
So you flick the switch and then suddenly it will pick up that last inch of petrol sitting in the bottom of the tank.
And you've got quite a few dials on the dash as well. There's a fuel gauge, there's a water temperature. What else have we got there? Got an amp gauge for the electrics. Obviously a speedo.
Amps, yeah.
And what's the last one over there?
You've got oil pressure and oil temperature as well.
Right.
Another characteristic of these engines is that they run incredibly high oil pressure. So whereas say the V8 Vantage, I think the kind of the running oil pressure on that is around 50 psi. On the DB6 it's 120 psi.
Wow.
So yeah, it's quite difficult to stop them from leaking oil because the oil pressure is so high.
And we've got 180 miles an hour on a speedometer. That must have raised a few eyebrows back in the day. I mean, it was certainly on a good day, these would probably nudge 150 or so, wouldn't they?
I think they might have been tested at 160 back in the day.
Yeah, possibly.
But that would have been, no doubt, factory tuned and well and truly breathed on by the competitions department to make them go that quick. Yeah,
exactly. And you'd be very thankful for that lovely cam towel at that point. That would be pinning you down to the tarmac, wouldn't it? But it's also funny that when you think when this was built, there was no, in the UK, there was no speed limit on the motorway, and our cars regularly were seen on the outside lane of the M1 hurtling down towards London because you could. And it was a couple of years after this was built that they brought in the 70 mile an hour speed limit, isn't it, really?
I think so, and I think it was E-Type that ruined that, wasn't it? Because they were testing the E-Type at 150 mile an hour back up and down the M1, and then the newspapers got hold of the story, and within weeks they put a 70 mile an hour limit on.
I think there's variations on a theme, but it's definitely probably a combination of Jag and I think AC were caught testing by journalists, but probably a bit of both, I dare say. I think AC were testing a Le Mans car on the M1 and got busted by journalists. But well, it's fabulous. It's really lovely to sit in a classic DB, and particularly a Vantage version. Thanks very much for showing us around your car, Jeff.
Pleasure.
So we are out in the Cotswolds right now, and I'm stood here with another friend of mine called Phil, and we are looking a very unusual car, really. A lot of people would probably do a double take when they see this car because they probably wouldn't guess exactly what it was at first sight. So to all intents and purposes, this car, at a quick glance, looks like an Aston Martin V8 from the 70s, but on wire wheels. Now, a lot of you now will be screaming at the headset that you're listening to this on, going, I know what it is. And it is actually a car we know as the AM Vantage. And this is basically the body of a V8, if you like, but with a 6-cylinder engine. So really, this is a facelifted DBS. And if you cast your mind back to the original DBS, it was available with a 6-cylinder engine, and then there was a DBS V8. But we'll talk a bit more about the history in a minute. But this car is absolutely beautiful. It's finished. Just remind me, Phil, the colour this car's finished in.
It started life actually as cricket white, but some 30 years ago or so, it was repainted in Cumberland grey, which I think is an 80s colour.
Yeah, it is. But it works, doesn't it? Because, again, people will be shouting at their headsets now. I know what that's from. Cumberland grey. Colour made famous by the Living Daylights, the V8s in the Living Daylights, which was finished in that colour. And this car's also got the CBA spot lamps in the grille, a bit like the V8 had in the 80s. So I know they're not right, but they look right on this particular car because of the colour. And actually, cricket white, I mean, it would look a big car in cricket white, wouldn't it, really?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not a great fan of white cars of any description, and I think I can see why the owner of the time went for this colour, which was just coming on vogue then in the 80s, I think. So.
Well, it certainly looks good, doesn't it? And it's got the original blue interior, hasn't it? So white with blue was quite a popular colour scheme back in the sort of 70s era, wasn't it, really? So you can see the remains of the original colour scheme, but it just works really well with that particular paint colour now, doesn't it?
Yeah, when I bought the car almost 5 years ago now, I was thinking, do I get it retrimmed to go to some burgundy or black even to make it more classic? But then the more and more you see the dark blue interior, it does work with the colour. And the car's remained pretty much standard, apart from that respray. I think it's got a couple of minor modifications, but different steering wheel. But the engine is the Vantage engine. It's still running on the Weber carburetors. I know some of them prefer the SUs, but it's still the original.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to go for a drive in a minute, aren't we? And we'll see a bit more and hear a bit more about what those carburetors can do. But what a great looking car. And those wire wheels, they just really look good, don't they? They couldn't put these on the V8 because the amount of torque the V8 produced, it was fairly dangerous for wire wheels, and there was a risk of it breaking a spoke. But for the Vantage with a 6-cylinder engine, it was 325 brake horsepower. But those wheels are more than up to the job. But they just look great, don't they? And they're a bit sort of wider and deeper than what you see on a DB5, aren't they? Really? And those lovely free-eared spinners, which have a touch of Bond from another era, don't they? About those.
Absolutely. I mean, when I chose the car, I was looking at a classic Aston, and I'd seen a couple of DBSs, both the 6 and the 8, and this came along. It had been fully restored, it had a very good history. I really wanted the wire wheels, and I've got another car with a V8 in it, and I thought, well, I don't have a straight 6, and it's got the manual gearbox, the 5-speed ZF dogleg. So it had everything, really, the colour, the chrome accents, everything about the car just sort of stacked up. And this was the one I wanted. Yeah.
Right, well, should we go for a drive?
Yeah.
Would that be all right? I'll let you drive, Phil. I'm going to get in the passenger side. So again, it's like a V8, nice big wide opening door, lovely comfortable interior when I get in it. So here we go, inside we get. And elsewhere in this podcast, we talk about the dashboard on the V8 Vantage and about it being a black dashboard rather than wood. And this car is very, very similar to that as well. And the first thing I'm noticing are the seat belts. We've got the old-fashioned style sort of 3-point seat belts, haven't we, in this? I just asked you to hold the mic a sec, Phil. I just try to strap myself in. And this lovely buckle with an Aston Martin sort of button in the middle. Got it the wrong way around. There you go. Can tell I haven't done this for a while. There we go. Thank you. Oh, and an 8-track. So we've got a Radio Mobile Stereo 8-track with a radio built into it. That's a nice feature from the 70s as well, isn't it? Really,
it is. It's the original radio. The 8-track actually works. I mean, it's quite difficult to find 8-track tapes. I've tried a few charity shops, but I think we've got the best of the Bee Gees or something. But we'll leave that to another day. But the radio works perfectly.
Right.
And then here you'll see the gear stick carefully numbered, obviously with it being the dog leg, with the first on the left.
Nice big hefty weighty looking gear knob that is, isn't it?
Yeah. So should we fire up?
Yes, fire it up.
So no choke. We've got the Webers, so a couple of pumps of the accelerator, and
look at that. And it's quite unusual, isn't it? We're sat in a car, you know it's not a DB6 because it's obviously wider and it's more modern, but it sounds like a DB5 or 6, doesn't it? Because it's essentially the same engine. It's the
same engine.
4 litre straight 6 twin cam, about 325 brake horsepower from memory, and it's got those lovely classic dials. These are different to what was in, or what are in the 1978 Vantage that we drive in the podcast. The dials on that car have got matte black rings, but this being an earlier car, it's got that really classic kind of look, big chrome beveled rings around the instruments, and a lovely wood rim steering wheel on this particular car. And you've got the handbrake, the fly-off handbrake, which is right next to your sort of left leg, basically, isn't it? But that's a fly-off handbrake. Yeah, let's go for a drive then, Phil.
Right, so.
And very different to your other Aston Martin, because you have a more modern Aston as well, don't you?
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to have a 2014 Vantage V12S, the Sportshift 3 gearbox. I've owned that since nearly new, back in 2014. So I think one of the attractions when I was looking at getting a classic was the same name, obviously. Strangely enough, neither of the cars have any badging to say that they're Vantages.
No, it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, the only Vantage you see on this car is on the side strakes, which was carried over, I think, from the DB4s, 5s and 6s.
Yeah, certainly on the DB6 we were looking at earlier, that had got the vent badges as well.
So all we've got on the front and back of the wings, Aston Martin, there's no other badging as model number or anything, and I thought that kind of sits well when you park them next to each other.
And now we're out onto a lovely bit of road, and we're sort of in the Cotswolds, aren't we, at the moment?
Yeah, this is the North Cotswold in Gloucestershire, near the village of Broadway, which we'll probably take a ride through.
That's brilliant. And first thing I noticed as a passenger is it's just really comfortable. As I think virtually every Aston I've ever been in has been comfortable, really. Even the pre-war ones, you'd be amazed how smoothly they ride, considering how old the cars are. But certainly this is feeling very Grand Tourer-like, which is what it is, isn't it, Phil?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been all over England and Wales in the car. We haven't been as far as the continent yet, but it's at its happiest, I would say, at 60, 75 miles an hour, that sort of gentle GT type speed. It will go a lot quicker, but it's just very comfortable at that speed and very relaxing. Can comfortably seat 4 adults, and yes, it's a lot of fun to drive. And yeah, it's still, even though it's 325 horsepower, the claim figure, it's a very heavy car, but it's got enough acceleration and enough top speed to make it a lot of fun to drive.
Yeah, and we should talk about the history really of it at this point, because as we briefly mentioned earlier, the DBS, the original DBS, was launched with a 6-cylinder engine, so it had a bigger body, but it had the same engine shared with the DB6. Then the DBS V8 first was shown in 1969, went into production in 1970, and then 2 years later, David Brown had basically come to the end of the road with his ownership of Aston Martin and sold the company. And around about the same time as that all happened, the two models were being facelifted. So the DBS V8 gained the 2 big round headlamps instead of 4 smaller headlamps. And so did what was effectively the DBS became this car, the AM Vantage. So cosmetically looks like the V8 model, but with the mechanics of the 6-cylinder underneath the bonnet. And only 70 of these built, Phil, is that right?
Yeah, I think so. This is number 24. It's had 10 owners over the course of its lifespan, and I've spoken to 3 or 4 of those. It was actually owned by Elstree Studios early on in its life, but I've not managed to locate any films or anything it might have taken part in. I don't think that happened, but it was registered to them very early on. But the previous owner I spoke to, he had it for 2 or 3 years, and then he traded it for a DB6 Volante.
Okay. Oh, that was quite a trade, wasn't it? Yeah. And the other thing I should say is that since you bought this car, you've obviously found out much more about the history of the model, and you're now, or you created a Facebook group for this particular model. So, and it's obviously not going to be a massive group because there's only 70 cars built. But even so, you've got quite a few of the owners in that group, I think, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. There's at least 3 of the previous owners, and it's relatively active, even though the fact that only 70 made. I know of about 5 or 6 others, maybe 6 or 7, maybe in this country. But we tend to share ideas and information with the similar V8 groups and the DBS groups. So I mean, we're obviously very similar cars, but this is obviously the rarest of the body shell. But
yeah, well, it's one of the rarest Astons of the 70s, really, when you think about it. And I'm just thinking from a technical point of view, when you work on one of these, the books you'd need the DBS workshop manual and parts book, and you'd probably need the early V8 parts manual as well, because of the body panels and the trim, etc. So quite an interesting blend, really. But what a fabulous car. It's the first time I've ever been in one of these. I've seen a few of these over the years. What a lovely car. Nice bit of open road now. And yeah, I think we'll pause it there for a minute. We're gonna do a bit of serious driving now and make the most of the sunshine. Phil, thanks ever so much for letting us look at your car and taking us for a spin in it.
Absolute pleasure, Steve. Anytime.
Great, thank you. Maybe when we get back, we'll have a look around your other car as well.
Absolutely.
Come on, girl.
There we go, listen to that. So I am sat with a friend of mine called Jeff, and we are sat in a 1978 Aston Martin V8 Vantage, and this is actually the motor show car from the 1978 motor show at the NEC, which I believe you were saying earlier was the first ever NEC motor show in Britain, in Birmingham.
It's the first one in Birmingham.
Yeah, it's the first one in Birmingham, and this was one of 3 cars on the stand. They were all in the same colour, which is called
Tourmaline blue.
Tourmaline blue, like a mid-metallic blue. And this car is also the first ever Oscar India V8 Vantage. And Oscar India, for those that may well have heard that name before, Oscar India means October introduction. There was an embargo date for this particular series of updates that were announced in October 1978. If you go onto Tim Cottingham's website, which is a really good, useful website for looking at things in detail, which is astonmartins.com, if you go on there, find the V8 section and look at the section that tells you all about Oscar India, and it will explain all the differences. But it's things like a different bonnet hump, isn't it, Jeff? And the position of the front indicators, the side repeater indicators on the front wings, that sort of thing. Now, this car we're sat in has got the black leatherette covered dashboard, isn't it? But
yeah.
Most of the other Oscar India cars had wood veneer, didn't they? The V8 right. And the V8 Volante, the walnut veneer, and that was an option on the Vantage.
I think so. I think the idea was that Aston originally used to do their interiors very plain and in matte black because they didn't want the driver to be distracted while they were driving along. But then they offered the walnut, which looks very pretty, and so most cars have got the walnut interior.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's certainly 9 times out of 10 it's wood, isn't it? But this looks really cool, doesn't it? You've got big slab of black, very 1970s dashboard. Lovely little piece of leather, almost like a key fob, with the lock for the glove box, sort of holding it to the glove box lid. So when you press that button, you pull that tab, and down comes the glove box. You've got air conditioning, we've got electric windows, we've got a stereo cassette player, a big row of large, very familiar looking buttons that look like Series 2 XJ6, and then a big flip up ashtray, which I think was a Rolls-Royce one, wasn't it, back in the day?
It might have been, yeah, you could be right, yeah.
We've got a sort of leatherette headlining and obviously 4 leather seats.
And we've got 2 different types of horn as well.
Oh, yeah, of course. You've got the horn changeover, haven't you?
Yes, we've got
Wind tones, yeah.
Well, we've got these.
Italian sounding, sort of Italian job, flam horns, yeah. But yeah, that's quite a cool feature, isn't it, really? Also, this car, just to describe it to everybody listening, this is the big V8 model that you think of in the 70s, the Vantage version. It's got the colour-coded blanked-off grille, big deep air dam below the bumper, 2 big 7-inch headlamps either side of the grille, and in the grille itself it's got a pair of CB Oscar or CBA Oscar spot lamps, isn't it?
That's it, yeah, driving lamps, I think.
Driving lamps, and is that button there, is it?
Yeah, auxiliary lamps, yeah, that's those, yeah.
Yeah. So, you needed some decent headlamps on this car, because potentially this car, the big headline, was 170 mile an hour top speed, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a pretty quick motor back in the day. Fastest production car in the world, I think, was the thing they said about it in period.
Yeah, faster than a 911 turbo. I think it gave a Countach a good hiding as well. Yeah. But it's a 4-seater, and literally you can get 2 adults in the back, can't you? Just about.
You can, yeah.
Quite a decent amount of room in them. And what's it like to drive, Jeff? Tell us what it's like to drive.
I mean, the noise is the thing that gets you. You know, you start it up, it sounds amazing. You've got that fabulous V8 roaring away, and then you pull away, and that tone builds. But actually, the bit I love best is the overrun. So when you change gear, you get that lovely sucking noise through the carburetors, and so it's like music, really. It's like music going on, and you can. It's a great way to lose your licence. You can have a lot of fun.
Yes, it might be an old car, folks, but this is a very rapid old car, isn't it?
Yeah, it really does shift. Yeah, it's a lovely thing.
And introduced in 1977. This was the first of the updated cars in 78. Gearbox-wise, 5-speed?
5-speed gearbox, yeah. Nicely positioned as well. Nicely spaced gears. Yeah, pulls. In fact, you can do over 100 mile an hour in 3rd gear.
Yeah, amazing. And it's a dog leg first gear?
Yeah, so first gear is back, right opposite reverse, and that's something you have to think about when you get in the car, because if you pull up to a set of lights and put it, top left, you can reverse into the car behind you very quickly.
Yes, very quickly, yeah. And handbrake, it's right next to your leg.
Yep.
Quite an old-fashioned looking handbrake.
Yeah, fly-off handbrake, so you just press the button on the top and then it just releases. I mean, it's the same gear knob as actually in the DB6, but that's on the other side, weirdly.
Well, this is sticking up, isn't it?
It does stick up a bit,
with a button on the end, and you press the button to put it on.
Yeah, fly off.
But to take it off, you just literally pull it towards you and let it go.
That's right, yep. Yeah, it's a fun thing, yeah.
And what's the brass plaque? I haven't got glasses on. We've got a brass plaque.
The brass plaque is the plaque that what's the word for it? Indicates that it was the Birmingham show car. Yeah,
typical Aston Martin, putting a little brass plaque in there just to say what the car had done from birth, basically. But yeah, it's fabulous, isn't it? I mean, we were out the other week in a supercharged Vantage, which is the other end of the evolutionary scale to this model. So it's nice to be sat in one of the earlier ones again, really.
You get the smell of the leather as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking
amazing.
That. It really does smell of lots of cows in here, aren't there, really, basically?
Even the headlining is leather as well.
Yeah, beautiful leather headlining, all hand machined, and everything in here is handmade, as is the way. And I noticed it's even got a footrest in the passenger side.
It has, yeah, it's quite an unusual feature, and a nice little vanity mirror in the glove box, and a pull-out map light, and as you pull it round, the light comes on.
Oh,
it's on a little swivel.
Yes, I remember.
Had for a little while, I couldn't understand why the battery kept going down. It's because actually the little switch on the light had gone wrong.
I can see it now.
On day and night.
I've just opened up the very wide glove box lid, which has got a flip-up mirror attached to it, and then it's got an elbow sort of light, chromed elbow light, isn't it?
Yeah, and as you bring it round, it comes on. A bit like a fridge light, you know.
Yes.
When it's in the closed position, the light's off. But of course, if the switch sticks,
it's on.
It's on. Yeah.
And there's a whole row of cassettes in there, Jeff. By the looks of it, I'm not going to go rooting through your collection. Is there anything in there that would be appropriate to a V8 Vantage?
Super Tramp is in there.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, Sade.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Smooth Operator.
Yeah, Smooth Operator. So maybe that's some of those songs.
Smooth Operator and. Quite fittingly, no doubt, The Long Way Home from Supertramp, I'm guessing.
Yes, I think that's on there, yeah.
Which you definitely want to go the long way home if you're out in this car. It's brilliant. Well, thanks ever so much. It's only a very short little conversation we're having today about this car. But yeah, great to see it today. Thank you ever so much for letting me have a quick ride in it. And thanks for talking to us, Jeff.
Been a pleasure.
Growing the passion, sharing the stories. The Aston Martin Heritage Podcast.
Right, we're ready. Ladies and gentlemen, I am back in a car again with my old friend and colleague Les Goble.
Hi, Steve.
How you doing, Les?
Yeah, very well, thank you. What a pleasure to be sitting in this lovely car.
I know. Well, let's tell the audience back home what we're sat in. And I think I worked it out earlier. This will be 24 years ago since we last went out in a car like this together. So we are sat in a V8 Vantage V600. So we're talking, I think Gordon said this is a 1998 car. So it's a fairly late Vantage. So if you're thinking about Vantages for a minute, you think of the 550 brake horsepower car with the twin superchargers. The car we're in started life as that, and then it had its upgrade to V600. So an extra 50 brake horsepower and an extra 50 pound per foot of torque, if that's the right way to say it. So yeah, it was already a pokey car, but this kind of made it even better. And we've just pulled away, and well, we're going for a drive, aren't we, Les? Let's go and see what happens.
Oh, this brings back memories, it really does. I remember driving these round Goodwood Motor Circuit, and believe it or not, 170 miles an hour down the Lavant Straight. I mean, what kind of car can do that performance today? Incredible. And I can just feel it straight away. The torque's incredible. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, it's quite something, isn't it?
Listen to that, Steve.
So what's that, second gear? Yeah. And we're not going out to set any world speed records today, but we're
I just want to wallow in what it used to feel like when I was driving. Yes, fantastic.
So the last time we went out in one of these, it was literally a few weeks after we'd launched the original Vanquish, and we were talking about this earlier. Les was asked to do a performance driving course in a customer's V600 with the customer. And the deal was that we needed to put the car for the workshop and check it for safety, which we did. And then it was going off to Millbrook. And I think we went up to Millbrook in it just to kind of do a bit of a recce, so you could work out what you could and couldn't do at Millbrook.
How we could adapt the performance driving course to this particular car.
Because it was totally different animal, wasn't it? The Vanquish was very high tech. It still is today, really. But back in 2000 or 2001, when we're talking about, it was night and day different to what we're in today.
I think Marek Reitman has said it about another Aston Martin, but this particular, this car is really is a brute in a suit. It's such a masculine car. It's fantastic. Yes, sorry.
I would almost describe it as a brute in a suit of armour. It's probably a better description, because it would be a handmade suit of armour as well. And these cars, just to recap, back in the 90s, they were, fully specced up. They were over £200,000, which was a huge amount of money back then. It's a huge amount of money now, but it's a huge amount back then. And they took about 4 months to build. The engine, just to build the engine initially, was about 60 hours. And then it had the V600 upgrade on top of that. So more, many, many more hours on top, plus all the other parts of the upgrade as well, which This car's quite unusual. This car's got the 6-speed gearbox.
Yes.
And most of these V600s have got a 5-speed, but this is quite a rare one, having the 6-speed box in it. And it also has the standard road wheels rather than the hollow spoked Dynag wheels, which are normally on the V600. And that noise, I remember that noise as well. If you pulled away in a certain gear, it would make that bit of gear sort of whine, wouldn't it? Wow, there we go.
The other thing, the gearbox as well. It really. Oh, look at that! It really is a car where you really need to work the gearbox. It's not light and subtle by any means.
And when we talk about a driver's car, we really mean you've got to drive it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to look at the rev counter. I think are we in third gear at the moment?
Yeah, third gear, 1500 on. 1500 on.
And it
yeah.
just beautifully pulls. Third gear, 1500 RPM. We're going down a dip. We're about to go up a hill, and it'll come up in any gear, really, won't it?
Yeah, it's got so much torque that you're not up and down through the gearbox. So it really is a really tractable car to drive, especially in this situation. Look, we're at a slow speed limit, but it's just ticking along really nicely.
Beautiful, yeah. And 600 brake horsepower this day and age, it doesn't sound a great deal, I suppose, when you compare it to modern supercars, but I would say this is 600 brake horsepower in old money. It's probably the best way to describe it, isn't it?
It's 600 brake horsepower you can really feel, that's for sure.
You really wouldn't want any more, I don't think, would you?
No, bearing in mind we've got no stability control, so it really is down to your right foot controlling the car and understanding what the car's actually telling you. It's got the basic traction control, but that's just figuring out wheel spin. But I remember back in the day I was asked to take a certain gentleman round Goodwood racetrack, and it was pouring with rain, and this gentleman said, no, you can't drive these cars in the wet. So I took him round Goodwood Motor Circuit, and I think he came back eating humble pie, that's for sure.
Prove that it could be done.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, what a machine. And just to describe what they're like inside, we're sat here. There's probably about 10 or 12 hides of leather. It's got an Alcantara headline in. It's got a bank of dials in the middle of the fascia. It's got a clock. It's got a battery condition.
It's all coming back now, Steve.
I know. There's
Really
nothing electronic as such. It's got a fuel gauge, obviously, an oil pressure gauge. What else have we got? An oil temperature gauge, a supercharger boost gauge, which it never seems to move a great deal, does it? That, thankfully. Yeah, I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 gauges. It's like an old school, like Concorde, I suppose. That had gauges, didn't it, rather than a glass screen dashboard. But yeah, and lots of wood. This particular car looks like it's probably got the burr elm wood in it, a lighter colour wood.
Absolutely nothing digital in the car, is there?
No, when we talk about analogue,
Yeah, it's old school analog.
this really is analogue, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a 90s classic. Less than 300 of these cars built in total. Some of those are V600. Some of them are just regular 550s. They're all fantastic. Most of them are manual. There are a few autos, but what a great 90s supercar. And I think personally that these are massively overlooked. This particular car, I'm sure you could buy for the price of probably a fairly average DB6, and this car is like brand new. It's beautiful condition. The interior looks like new, and it makes that fabulous noise.
You can hear the superchargers, can't you?
Yeah, twin superchargers. There they go. Getting it wound up a little bit.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I'm enjoying myself.
Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. A V600, fully recommended. Old school, if you like old school. Aston Martin. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Right, so we're going to hear the V12 Vantage S start up. Lovely, lovely, lovely. That's a nice bit of music, that, Phil. Back into another Vantage now. This is a totally different type of Vantage to what we've just been out in. And, well, tell us what this one is, Phil.
Yeah, so this is a 2014 Vantage V12S with the SportShift 3 gearbox. 5.9 litre, 565 horsepower. It's actually quite an unusual car. It's finished in Ferrari Nero Daytona. The interior is a mixture of carbon fibre, Alcantara, and it has the lightweight carbon seats, which to me really help make the car. I mean, they're so comfortable. You can just do thousands of miles on this car. It really is really comfortable.
Although it's a sports car, it's almost like a touring sports car, isn't it? With a party trick of the V12 Vantage.
It is. I mean, there's a lot of room. We've been all over Europe, all over the United Kingdom in this car, and you can just keep driving it, and there's plenty of room for two and all the luggage you need. Such a practical car, the Vantage. Yeah. And of course, the sound is unbelievable. It's the naturally aspirated V12. Yeah, and I've owned it for over 10 years now, and I can't see me ever wishing to stray from this particular car. It's my baby, yeah.
Well, I know I should be trying to sell you a new one, but I can understand why. It is a lovely car, and I think you told me earlier there's only two of these in this colour scheme, and it's... Well, tell us what it is. It's a special colour, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a Ferrari Nero Daytona, which is their pretty much standard black metallic. And this one's finished with a couple of yellow accents, the calipers that go with the carbon ceramic brakes, and then interior has a couple of yellow flashes that sort of tie it in. So,
and it's got yellow on the grille, has it? Or
yeah, on the inside of the carbon grille has got a yellow accent. It doesn't have the lipstick, as it's known, that's on the actual bodywork, or it doesn't have the yellow mirror caps. They're carbon, so it's quite subtle.
Quite subtle.
The accents.
And I've been sitting in here looking at, because I know this paint colour very well. Before Onyx Black became an available colour for Aston, for quite a while we didn't actually have a metallic black of our own, and so back in the sort of Vanquish era, people were cottoning onto this colour and ordering the Vanquish in Nero Daytona. And then, of course, Onyx Black came in time for DB9 launch, and actually was our most popular colour for many, many years. But the clever thing about it is when you look at it as a black paint, the speckles of metallic are gold rather than silver, aren't they? And I'm looking at the carbon fibre that this car's got on the dash, and it has a slight gold tint in there as well, doesn't it? So it perfectly picks out the paintwork on the outside. Honestly, the guys at HWM who I know ordered this car, I think 11 out of 10 for speccing this one, because you couldn't fault it. It's just the most perfect specification for this type of car, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when this car was released, I think it was the fastest series production Aston Martin to date, save the 177. So with this one, it's been debadged. It has all the lightweight options, the seats, the wheels, as much carbon as was available at that time, and it just suits it. And of course, the sound, I have had a secondary decat, which just accentuates the...
Don't tell anyone.
No, it's MOT compliant, I can assure you.
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate not to have any near neighbours to upset, so it's
that's
quite
a good point. We're sort of pretty much in the middle of nowhere here, aren't we? But we might see a few birds taken off out of the trees in a minute when you start it up, because we've got the door open, so I think we should leave the door open for a second. I've noticed it's also got the carbon paddles on the for the gear shift as well, and you're a big fan of this gearbox, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before this car, I owned for almost a year the Vantage V8S, which I test driven the normal manual, then the SportShift 2 that was in the V8, and also the manual V12, and I was really taken by the gearbox. And I think as soon as you know, or when you're taught or given some tips on how to drive it, basically like a normal manual without the clutch pedal, you just basically take your foot off the accelerator a little bit when you want to change gear and use the paddles. I think it's just a whole lot of fun. And it's way quicker than a traditional manual stick shift, and it's still involving, and it's very much a manual car. You never drive this gearbox in its auto setting. So, I mean, I'm in love with it. Of the cars that I have, all of which are traditional manual, I would put this gearbox in all of them.
Yeah. And it's got the D button, which I seem to remember we used to say D for don't press it, because that's basically the auto button, isn't it, if you press that? But I really wouldn't bother. It's just such a great gearbox, and so I know you're a big fan of it. So yeah, and I think just before we head out onto the road, just again to recap for anyone listening as to the car we're talking about, this is what we would call a V12 Vantage S. At work, we tend to call them a V12S, and we all know what we're talking about, but that's what it is. So it's the body shape of the Gaydon-built Vantage that first came out in 2005 as the V8 Vantage, and then gradually we got the V8S, who's just mentioned, and then the V12 Vantage, which came along as well, and then that was updated into this car, the V12 Vantage S, which I think was 2013 from memory, if I remember rightly.
2013 or 2014.
Exactly.
I think the upgrades to this over the ordinary V12 Vantage are the lightweight wheels. It has an extra 55 horsepower. The brakes are slightly bigger. The steering's slightly quicker. Has a different exhaust.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it then goes down into the finishing options that were available.
Yeah, and if I remember rightly, the exhaust on this is shared with 177. I think that the bit at the back, I believe, is the same as a 177. So it makes a hell of a noise. Is it cold at the moment, the car? Has it been started? Or
It has been started fairly recently. So,
okay, all right. So it won't be quite as loud as it could be when it's cold. But go on then, Phil, hit the switch. Let's have a listen. So we're going to put the emotional control unit, the key, basically, into the engine starts button in the middle. And there we go. And it's in sport mode. So nice and loud. Good job we're in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, listen to that. Let's go for a drive, Phil.
Let's go.
So into reverse, up comes the reverse camera screen, which is a sat-nav screen when it's in sat-nav mode. Very nice clear colour picture with some little red and yellow lines to show us where to manoeuvre the car. And you can just tell Phil knows exactly what he's doing. He's just flicked the right paddle, which puts it into first gear, and away we've gone on the main road now. I say main road, we're in the Cotswolds, so it's not exactly a main road, but that sounds very dramatic, but I assure you we haven't broken the speed limit. It just sounds good. So what are we in, fourth gear, is that?
Yeah, this is actually a 60 mile an hour road, and we went exactly up to 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Officer.
We're in fourth gear, 7-speed in the gearbox. It's Graziano, I believe. And towards the end of this model run, I think Aston Martin did offer a stick shift option to this with exactly the same gearbox.
Yeah. And if you flick it down a gear, can you flick it down a gear now? Well, that will give us a bit of a theatrical burst of noise from the back end, will it?
Yep.
There you go. Third gear. 55 miles an hour. That's 55, not 155, I hasten to add. But so much drama, isn't there, with that exhaust? Absolutely fabulous. Naturally aspirated, no turbo. Wow, brilliant. It's lovely to be back out in one of these, Phil. Yeah. It really is. Fabulous classic car, modern classic car. V12 Vantage or V12 Vantage S, they're all superb cars. Great value for money, I believe. And yeah, low numbers, very, very low numbers production-wise on both types. So yeah, great car if you're thinking about your first classic Aston, but you want something that's modern and usable, then it's a great car to consider, really. And bearing in mind the windows are up, so it's louder outside than it is inside. Should we get the windows down?
Put the windows down.
Yeah, let's put the windows down. Look at that. And again, we're 29 miles an hour, so we haven't broken the speed limit once. Well done, Phil. It's almost like being on a driving test, this. I know Les, if you're listening, he's going to pass to the driving course for sure. Perfectly driven, perfect. And I think the big thing with these gearboxes, you have to understand how they work. You have to understand that it's not an automatic. although there isn't a clutch pedal, it is a manual gearbox, and when you change gear you just have to relax the pressure on your right foot on the accelerator and it just eases it into gear, and it is magical, isn't it, when you get this right?
Yeah, it's just so much fun, and it also makes you keep both hands on the steering wheel, which can be quite helpful with the amount of power that the car produces. So
yeah, perfect. There we go, changing down a gear.
we're in second.
So we're in second gear now for another roundabout. There we go, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the V12 Vantage S. What a car, wonderful. Thanks, Phil. Let's go for a little drive and then take her home.
Thanks very much, Steve.
You're listening to the Aston Martin Heritage Podcast. Discover more about the story of Aston Martin, the cars, the people, the history with the Aston Martin Heritage Trust. You're always welcome to visit us at our museum in Oxfordshire, so find out more via amht.org.uk.